Welcome to the Cyrus Community. This is Business Unusual. In today's rerun of our January 2024 conversation, Charles and Susan dive into the importance of prophetic alignment for believers in the marketplace. We explore themes like prophetic alignment, aligning with God's purpose for success; overcoming Mammon, addressing the spirit that hinders kingdom advancement; grace and intention, grace flows from aligned intentions; understanding jurisdiction, staying within your spiritual authority; progress over perfection, celebrating small victories on your journey; clarity in relationships, distinguishing who is sent to you and who you are sent to. Join us now as we explore how to fulfill your divine calling in the marketplace.
We are talking about the prophetic alignment 2024 and beyond. And remember, we always say that we are talking to the believers in the market space, because this is the season when you need to find your space where God tells you, if you're here, you will thrive. And of course, our conversation, or in this series, you will understand more about alignment and why we say that you will thrive in your market space. Now we continue this conversation.
Yes.
And we are looking at our key scripture.
Yes.
Is Luke 10:2. And if you've not listened to our last conversation, please do so, because this is a series and it will always build on the last one.
Yes. And it's important for a number of reasons. The prophetic insight we have for this season is that alignment is crucial. Where you are, who you're connected to, what sound you're listening to, what instructions you're heeding, what activity you're carrying out will determine success or failure. And that's why this becomes crucial.
And that's why we always talk about church and ecclesia.
Yes.
Because in church, it's all about being random. Today you can say, by the way, this week I want to pray. You decide what you want depending on your activities. Yes. Or what is happening around you.
Yes.
But when you talk about the ecclesia, is where we are saying that these are a people called out and they're on a mission. Yes. And therefore when you say alignment, you're simply saying that there's one you are hearing from.
Yes.
And you work and walk.
Yes.
In a word.
Yeah. Actually, when you use the example of the church church generally operates on two parameters.
Okay.
And those parameters sometimes are what causes us crisis. Mm-hmm. One parameter is when, like you said, we wake up and decide, I'm a minister, I think there's a good message. This is the best message that right now I think I like this message, let me share it.
Yes.
That's one model. Mm-hmm. The other model is what's going on. Let's respond to what's going on. Are things bad? Are things good? Are we in crisis?
Yes.
Is there a problem in the nation? From that perspective now let's build what we are going to pray to God about. And that's not alignment. That's being out of alignment.
So when we talked about alignment here, we said that ask the Lord of the workers. He is the one who knows the worker and the harvest and who to place.
Yes.
And today we are looking at the master himself, Jesus. How does he call the workers and his pattern? Because if we don't understand his pattern, then we don't understand how we are called.
Exactly.
And I think that's our conversation today.
Yes.
Yeah.
We want to focus primarily on his model. Matthew 10:1.
When he called his disciples to himself, he gave them power over unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all kinds of sicknesses and all kinds of disease.
Now what is interesting is if you know, we're English people, and when you hear statements of cast out and heal all kinds of sicknesses and all kinds of disease, in English, in medical terms, disease and sickness is the same thing. But why are they both in the same sentence? Because notice the way I played on words, I said this is, not disease. This is anything that is out of alignment. Anything that does not allow ease, anything that takes away from your peace, anything that causes you not to function at optimum.
Yes.
That was how much power they were sent out to deal with.
So they are given power.
Yes.
And the power is to do two things.
Exactly.
One, cast out
demons,
and then
bring healing
to
of
both.
all sickness and disease. All right. Now this is important that we get to. I want you to understand some key issues here. This is Jesus' model. Now I want you to look at the progression. The first thing says that when he called his disciples to himself, he did not call his disciples to an assignment.
He did call them to ministry.
No.
That's what we understand.
Yes, I'm called to ministry. No, I'm sent to ministry, but I am called to him.
Stop, because that is what we as TCC need to
Exactly.
get loud and clear when
Yes.
we say we're in a season when God is calling the workers and he's saying there's a harvest.
Yes.
Now the harvest
Yes.
need to understand how the worker is
Is
called,
equipped,
because
yes.
that way they'll be able to understand who is called, who am I called to,
Exactly.
who is equipping me.
Exactly.
Jesus, let's start that again.
So this scripture is clear. He
Yes.
said, and he called his disciples to himself, which means there is first a calling to himself before there is any sending. All right? You must understand, this is very interesting. This is Jesus, these are his disciples.
Yes.
That statement doesn't make sense. Who are disciples? They are followers.
Yes, they're already with him.
Yeah, so you should simply say, and he told the disciples to go. No. And he called his disciples. Listen, he called his followers. Hey, that is not English.
Okay, so the disciples were already with him.
Yet he
He's
had
not
to,
calling them out there.
he called them to himself. Now there's a process. Call is the word ek, where we get the word ecclesia from.
Okay,
Klesis, which means to be called out. All right? He called them. What did he call? He called them to himself so that he could give them the clarity. There's another place where Jesus says, come to me, all you who are burdened and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke. So there's always a calling before there is a taking of the yoke.
Yes.
And in the calling, he unburdens you first. He takes away what you think is the burden.
so let's go back again to this thing that
Yes.
the disciples are already with him.
Exactly.
So these are not people out there.
Yes.
These are his followers. These are
Yes.
people who know him. And he knows them.
Exactly.
But he's still saying, listen,
Yes.
even though you've been following me, even though you pray, you love me, and you say that you desire to walk in a call
Yes.
of God.
Yes.
He's telling you, listen, no matter what, even
Yes.
if you're a disciple,
Exactly.
I'll still call you
That's it.
to me.
Yes.
He called them to himself. That's
Yes,
so
this is
powerful.
crucial. He called
Yes.
them to himself. Only then did he give them power. Now, what does this translate to? It means proximity precedes activity. Before you are sent, you must be called. Called means you must come to him. What happens when you come to him? He makes you.
So when you talk about proximity here, we are talking about relationship.
Relationship, transformation,
Yes.
change. You are changed before you can change anyone.
So this relationship here, when we say, listen, you must know the voice of your father.
Yes.
You must know him. You must know. That's what you are saying, that before you run to the harvest field, you're
Yes.
being told, know him, come
Exactly.
to him.
Exactly.
Relationship.
Yes.
Talk.
Come
Get to
to
know
him.
his voice.
Yes.
You can't know his voice from a distance.
Nope.
You have to come
You have
to
to
him.
come to him.
Okay.
And that's why we say there has to be, when I say I'm sent, the question is always, what is the word with which I am sent? That is whose word? Who sent me? Listen, guys, sending is not responding to crisis. Sending is not responding to problems.
Okay.
Sending is responding to his instruction. He is the one who sends. And this might sound simple, but this is where most complexity starts.
Yeah.
Because, like I said earlier, we tend to think we are sent to where we see a problem. No. He said he called them to himself, then he gave them power. So power comes from being in proximity. So when you get close, he then gives you power. Now, why is that important? Because if we try to utilize power and it is not connected to him, we are going to cause crisis.
Because that's what we see when you
Yes.
read Matthew 7:22, and we see that these men coming to Jesus, and Jesus saying, get away from me.
Yeah.
I do not know you. But we did miracles, we
Thank
raised
you.
the dead, we
Thank
cast out demons.
Yes.
Look at here, he said, when he
Yes.
called the disciples, he gave them power.
Yes.
This power was to cast out demons.
Exactly.
These guys are saying, we cast out demons in your name.
So you get the mistake that we are sent based on our giftedness. We are sent based on our ability. No, we are sent based on his intent.
What do you mean when you say we are sent? We think we are sent out because of our giftedness.
Now, it's very interesting that, let me use an example. If we use natural giftedness as opposed to imputed grace,
Okay.
we'll have a crisis. Let me show you from the disciples. In the disciples, we know that Matthew is the tax collector. So what would it be natural for him to be placed as? The treasure.
Okay.
What was he placed as? None of that. Judas is the one who is the treasurer. So what has this got to do with how people are called? If you look at the context of every single individual, Peter is the impetuous one. He's the one who steps out, takes risks, does things. And so you'd assume he's not calm enough to be a leader. John is the calm one. No. The master knows who is most effective. Ask the Lord of the harvest to send you laborers. It is him who gives definition to the term labor. We don't do things because we can.
Yes.
We do things because we are sent.
So if you're talking about being effective with the power that we have received, we have to remain connected. We have to remain in proximity.
Yes.
In this, what we are calling relationship with your Father.
Yes.
So without that is where we see now where these people come to Jesus and he says, listen, I didn't know you.
Don't know you.
Even though you're busy exercising power.
Yes.
Are you saying then that there are people who can receive power and then cut off that relationship?
Yes, because the Bible is very clear. It says the gifts and callings. Notice two terms. There's gifts and then there is callings.
Yes.
And without repentance, God doesn't take away the gift and God doesn't change the calling. But here's the problem.
Yes.
When you're given the gift, you can change the calling.
Okay, wait. He is a disciple.
Yes.
Jesus called you to himself.
Yes.
You received power to cast out demons.
Exactly.
You received power to heal.
Yes.
You received power to heal diseases and sicknesses.
Exactly.
But now you've divorced yourself from the master. You've divorced yourself from the sender.
Yeah. Let me give you two examples from scripture, from the Old Testament, that will show you the danger of not understanding that model.
Okay.
One is found from Gehazi. Gehazi goes after Naaman when Elisha has refused to take a gift from Naaman.
Yes.
And when Gehazi takes it, Elisha asks him a strange question. Was it time that we received? Meaning receiving is not the problem. This particular situation, this particular circumstance did not require it. And it cost Gehazi the lineage of the prophets. That's how it happened. We also see Saul. He's a king. And he's been told by God, wait. Do not offer any sacrifice until Samuel comes. Saul gets impatient and he offers the sacrifice. Is he able to offer sacrifice? Yes.
He can.
Is he authorized to offer sacrifice? No. And from that moment, if you check his trajectory, it goes off of his calling until he loses his kingdom.
So what are you saying about when we separate or divorce power from the one who sent us?
Yes. Because
what's the danger of that?
We now think it is our gift, not his tool.
And he doesn't take it away.
You have it.
The gift, the calling, God doesn't take away. And like now when you're saying that, what would be the danger of this minister who divorces himself from the relationship from God, though he's carrying the power?
Okay. Again, I will allude to Saul.
Okay.
Best example. Saul had an assignment from God. Other than just being crowned king, God had told him, I want you to destroy the Amalekites. And God told him why. Because they attacked Israel. Look at how far back God is going. Remember when they were asked for water? Remember when Moses' hands were held? That was one problem. The second problem was whenever there was a struggle, when they were leaving Egypt, the Amalekites would always attack them. So God swore then he would wipe out the Amalekites from the face of the earth. So what was King Saul's sending? Because of God's promise, God had sworn, which means many times our sending is in line with something God had said long before. And so when we deviate from it, we're making God a liar, even though we are gifted. So Saul had been given an assignment and a command to wipe out the Amalekites. In fact, what he went on and did, if you follow the story, he kept the king and kept some of the animals and he disobeyed God.
Actually, the healthy ones. He kept the healthy sheep.
And that day God says, from now, your kingdom is taken from you. Your sending, your assignment, nullified.
Okay.
Now, this taught David a lesson. David learned never to be removed or divorced in proximity with God. In fact, you find it in many of his stories. There's a psalm where he says, do not take your Holy Spirit from me.
Yes.
There's a psalm that says, can I hide from you? Always bring me to you. Keep me under your shadow. David knew power is exercised in proximity. And that's why no matter how powerful David was, there was a wisdom he had. He inquired of the Lord. We see the same fellows, the Amalekites, they come and carry away everything.
So outside of proximity,
yes,
that's where we birth manipulation.
Exactly.
Control.
Yes.
And that is when you now start exercising the power over people, not over demons.
Yes.
Because when they're told that they were given power to cast out demons, now, I don't know if you're casting out people, but now you're exercising your power over people.
Exactly.
And that's why you have all these personality cards and all that.
And you need to understand, power is a sacred trust.
Okay.
That's why every time David would ask, should I pursue? Should I not? Should I follow? It was not, can I?
Should I?
Let's get that very clear.
Wow. Wow.
David never dealt with can I. He always dealt with should I. And that's the most important thing. Because power is a sacred trust. And we must understand power doesn't start from us. Power is seeded to us by the one who sends you. And it is seeded for a reason. Power is not seeded to me out of my personality, my culture, or the prevailing circumstances. So God doesn't give me power because a problem has occurred. Here's some power, go deal with it. God gives me power to establish what he intends.
So you're saying that God is already on a mission in the earth.
Yes.
There is what he's doing.
Yes.
Then he says, I'll give you power.
Yes.
Anything that is stopping this thing from happening in the earth, cast it out.
Cast it out.
Any sickness that is slowing anyone dying, ill.
Yes.
Any situation that is causing when you talk about disease,
that's a thing.
Just heal that. Heal.
Yes.
So that we can, there's something you're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So power is given to oppose the work of darkness, not to oppose people.
Say that again.
For power is not for my personal benefit. It's not to make me more powerful or more important or more famous. Neither is it for controlling people. So I don't use my power then say, have you seen how powerful I am? Now obey me. I do not say, do you see how accurate my prophetic word was? Now follow me. No, power is given for the benefit of the people, not for the control of people.
And any oppositional force that is against divine purpose, can we deal with that?
Exactly.
So when we talk about Jesus calling them to himself, he's saying, listen, if you're my disciple, if I have sent you, you are the worker I'm sending to a harvest, you're not sent to attack the harvest. You're going to check that what is opposing the harvest from fulfilling their divine purpose, mandate, or that thing I want them to fulfill. That you deal with. I think it's so powerful when you say that power is not for exercising over people.
It's not. Listen, if I'm sent into the harvest, second parable of the sower, if I'm sent into the harvest, I am not, my primary job is to weed, to give it freedom to grow, to nurture, to allow it to come to fullness. That's what the harvest is about. That's what power it is. It is like you said, it's a pushback against opposition to the purposes of God. It is not a pushback against people. So guys, please, let's stop for my enemies, for those who hate me. No. It is for leave people alone. It is for the enemy who hates you ultimately and makes you think people hate you. Jesus on the cross used his power to deal with hell and forgive the people.
The same people who are crucifying him.
Thank you.
Father, forgive them.
For they know not.
Forgive them. Why? Because when you talk about men, God has sent you to men. When you talk of the harvest, harvest is men and women. So you cannot say now, there's a harvest here, but part of this harvest, they are my enemies, and that's why I'm exercising my power.
It's not possible.
So when you start exercising your power against people, it already tells you you've divorced yourself from proximity.
In fact, you've now disconnected from supernatural power. You're now using gifted power. Let me explain the difference. Supernatural power is when God, heaven, Bible says, I watch over the word of my prophet to bring it to pass. So if it is the word of his prophet, it is the word he sent. If I prophesy from my intentions and my motives, he says he'll not bring it to pass. Because now I'm trying to use my manipulative power. I am now using predictive ability. I'm now using observation to try and manipulate you to do something. When I do that, I'm disconnected from power, so it will not produce.
So if I come and say now, God, in the original plan,
Yes.
God called me.
Yes.
I went to him, because that's so important for people to know,
Yep.
that they are disciples who can receive power and then disconnect
Yes.
from the one who gave them the
It's true.
source. All right. So you're saying that this person who has disconnected
Yes.
now will use the gift,
Yes.
which by men, by observation,
Yes.
they will mistake for
Power.
presence of divine.
Yes. And what we tend to do then in that context, we like relying on history when we were connected.
Okay. And that's why we always talk about, I can see that in your past,
Yes.
there was someone, not in your future.
Yeah.
Anyone disconnected
Exactly.
will always see your past.
And I, as the minister, will remind you of the time when I was still connected. Did you see what I did? Did you see
Yes.
what I said? That was then. Now I'm using that CV
Yes.
to use now what I'm doing. For example, I'll go to King Saul again. There was a
Okay.
time when he was pursuing Amalekites, and God always gave him victory. Now he's pursuing David, but he can make it look like it is an enemy of God.
And now he's convincing you
Exactly.
what I'm doing is a
Yes.
mandate from heaven.
Exactly.
Yet when you're pursuing David, remember when he was told that your kingdom has been taken away from you and given to another
Yes.
who is better.
Yes.
The one who is better is the one he's pursuing.
Yeah, yeah.
But he might make look like that a king, like
Exactly.
a divine assignment.
Yes.
I'm actually on a mission.
That's it.
You
That's
know?
it. So we can say modern technology gives it very well. In the olden days, in the industrial age, we would say you are now running on momentum. So the vehicle has no more fuel. It's actually switched off.
Yeah.
But because of the spirit was going on before, it is now running on momentum. As long as there's a flat ground or an incline going down, it looks okay.
Yes.
The minute it finds an incline climbing up, then you'll begin to discover there's no power.
Actually, that's when you will know, wow,
Yes.
there was no power.
In modern
here.
technology, it's like a charge tool that is wireless. Once you plug it from the charger, it still works.
Yes. But guess what? From that moment now,
It's winding down.
give it time.
It's winding
And
down.
remember, we always say that God doesn't live in time.
Yeah.
So God is not going to rush and say, you know what, you
Yes.
disconnected from me. Quickly, let me stop you. He says, listen, you just disconnected from the charger.
Exactly.
Watch.
Exactly.
Your battery is
Yes.
going down.
Yes.
Your battery is going down.
So the context in which this power is mentioned, and he gave them power, it comes from the Greek term exousia, which is much wider than just energy.
Okay.
It is the right. So he gives them the right. He gives them the permission.
Okay.
He gives them the allowance. He gives you room. You're free to do this. He gives you the capacity to enforce. But remember, everything is giving you is not from you. It's from a power from him. There is no demon who fell down because of disciples.
It's not because he's seen these people.
No.
No, there's a force they
It
have.
was, he gave them power. It is his power
Power.
that cast out demons, not their power.
So let's go back to that list again.
Yes.
When you talk about this power that he's giving them, you're
Yes.
saying that one, he gives them the
The
right.
rights.
What does that
Yeah.
mean?
Right means there's a thing I can pursue, and I am illegal, and you can pursue and you're illegal.
So you have the right.
It's called I have the right. In other words, there's a field of calling God has given me. When I pursue it,
Yes.
when I speak over it, when I declare over it, when I pray over it, it moves.
So when you talk about this power, you're saying, listen, where
Yes.
I'm sending you, you have the right
That's
to
it.
go.
That's it.
If you don't have the right, for
Yes.
example,
Yes.
when you come to talking about now in modern times,
Yes.
when you go to the gate and it has a password,
Yes.
the right here means you have the password.
You have the password.
Somebody
You have the key.
else knows that these 10 numbers here
Exist.
they're here.
But how do
Somehow,
Yeah.
if I press 4 numbers only,
Exactly.
it will open, but I don't know that
you don't know?
sequence.
Because you've not been given.
You're not being given.
Yes.
So the right is where you have the password to open the gate.
And you're fully authorized. And
Yes.
this was the sad result of the sons of Sceva. They did not understand that they had no rights. They had not been given the permission.
So
they had not
there is
been given
right.
the allowance
Okay.
to go and enforce anything.
Right, permission,
Yes.
allowance,
Yes.
and authority.
Yes.
That is what the power does. When you say that you have come to Jesus and he's
Yes.
given you, then he sends you. When
Yes.
he sends you, and of course this is so powerful for the minister,
Yep.
that any minister should know that if you're sent,
Yep.
you have the right,
Yes.
you have the permission,
Yes.
you have authorization,
Exactly.
and when you step out, that is where the demons
Yes.
are subject
Exactly.
to you
Yes.
in his name, in his sending.
Let me explain this. If I walk up to you in a place where I have access to, but you who is resisting me are not aware that I have access. If I am sure of myself, I will not enter a debate with you. I know the channels and the protocols to use to bring you to understand my authority.
And that's why sometimes you hear people talk, or in an argument, somebody asks, do you know who I am?
Exactly.
And of course, if you've forgotten who you are, how am I supposed to know who you are? I mean, if you don't know who you are, who am I to
If you've
know?
already forgotten,
You've forgotten.
don't demand for other people to remind you.
So the power, okay, the power comes from a source bigger than yourself.
Yes, meaning if I need to make a call, I don't need to threaten you with it. I simply make the call. If I will call, no. I have the authority. Many times we call because that is when we want to be ceded some authority. We don't actually have it.
Yes.
All right? So the confidence that comes with the knowing you've been called and you've been sent is the confidence with which you deal in your jurisdiction. There is no guesswork. There is no labor. There is no struggle.
And the confidence also that I
Yes.
have when I walk into the harvest or
Yes.
my calling place or my market space. I have not used the word market space today.
Yes.
Fine. The market space is because
Yes.
I have confidence that the power I have comes from a source
Yeah.
bigger than me.
That's
And that is
the
when we understand that when Jesus tells you he's sending you,
Yes.
that is where we need to go to him first. That's why we
Exactly.
need to answer the call. When you say that I have
Yes.
answered the call and I've gone to him, he has sent me. Because once I come from him, the
Exactly.
confidence that
Absolutely.
I'm coming from the throne
Yes.
to the earth.
Exactly.
When you disconnect, you're now coming from the earth, trying to go to the throne and telling God, please help.
Sure.
Come and do. We call
So,
him by fire. Come down.
Let me ask you.
Okay.
If you're a good parent and you send your child, or you're a good manager, or you're whoever, let's take anybody who has some level of authority, and you send somebody with clear instructions on what they should go and carry out, and they come back and ask you what to do, what does that tell you? They don't know what they were called to do. You did not understand your sending,
Yes.
or they did not aware of the fullness of what you sent them to do. So many times the reason we come back and start praying and asking God to intervene is a sign of we are not aware whether or not we are authorized to deal with this matter. And that's why knowing where you're sent is so important, because when you find that which you should deal with, that's why when it was time to go into the land, God was clear. Kill the giants. You couldn't now come back and tell God there are giants in the land.
Come and kill them. He's
But I
already
told
what
you.
and to what to
So,
what to
so,
go
so
and
you
do.
can imagine the guys who brought a report and said there are giants in the land, and like, which part did you miss? We were informed there were giants and we were told to kill them. So you should have killed them, not come to inform us they're there.
So if you look
Yes.
at the sending here,
Yes.
you'll always see these two patterns, Moses and Joshua. Moses would come from the earth,
Yes.
having heard the complaints of the people,
Exactly.
and he'll take the complaints to God.
Yes.
And he will like be taking the problems, the needs, the pain of the people to God.
Yes.
Now Joshua was coming from God to the people.
That's
Why?
it.
What's the difference?
Yes.
If you come from God to the people, their pain will be addressed, because whatever
Exactly.
Jesus sends you to,
Yes.
he's already told you, you'll deal with the pain.
That's how you deal with it.
Don't worry. But
Yeah.
now as we think, when there's this sickness, we take it to God.
Exactly.
Yet he's telling you, listen, I've
No.
given you power.
Go and do the sickness.
Cast out demons and heal sicknesses and disease.
He told them what to go do.
So when you take the disease to him, the
He'll
sickness
ask
to
you,
him,
but I told you to go deal with it. Why are you informing me?
remember, we're talking about Jesus calling the disciples to himself, and we say that disciples are people who are already with him. But even though you're a follower, you love him and you've been following and yearning to have a call, he still have to call you to himself. So you come to him. Once you come to him,
Yes.
he sends you forth. And now we look at verse 5 that says that these 12 Jesus sent forth, and commanded them, saying, if you read Matthew chapter 10, verse 5.
Yes.
Now let's talk about Jesus sent. When you say Jesus sent, this word sent, what does it connote, or what's the meaning of that?
Please, and I love the progression.
Okay.
That remember where we said, and stay with us, called to himself, gave power, gave instructions, then sent. Please check the order.
Yes.
Called to himself, gave power, gave instructions, go and do 1, 2, 3, and then where. So in every sending, there is a calling to himself.
Okay.
There is the secondly, giving power. Thirdly, instructions, and then jurisdiction. Where
you are sent.
You are sent. So sent has a number of connotations. One of the first and most important connotations is it is very specific. When you're sent, God is specific. He's specific of what it is he has called you to carry out. There's a responsibility. Go and do this. So I cannot just wake up and say, I'm sent. You know, many times the problem is that we use these terms in a weird manner. I'm an apostle. I'm a sent one. Thank you. To where? I'm a prophet. To when God spoke to Jeremiah, he was very specific who Jeremiah was sent to as a prophet. He said, I've sent you to Israel and to Judah. So Jeremiah was not told sent to anybody else.
Yeah.
There was a context.
So there is a specific sending and the responsibility expected.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I must know when I'm done, when I say I'm sent, I should be able to define what the instruction is and to whom.
Okay.
There must be a breakdown.
Okay.
The next thing is I must be clear about the place I'm sent to. Not everybody is sent everywhere. I can't wake up today. When he said to them, that verse 5 goes on to say, and go only to the children of the house of Israel. So if they had dared to go outside, to go and deal with the demons outside their jurisdiction, they would have had failure.
So when you talk about jurisdiction and say that the sending, of course, tells you who and where you are sent, the sending is the boundary of where you should be operating.
Exactly.
So when you talk about the kingdom of God, he doesn't tell you, don't. No. Look at your sending. Where am I sent? To whom am I sent?
Yes.
And then that is what defines your boundaries.
That's what defines it. That's what I mean by I am called and I am sent. Because sending defines my target environment, and it removes randomness. I'm not going to be arbitrary. I'm not just going to wake up and say, tomorrow we have another plan. The next day we have another plan. Maybe some of you have been tracking with us are saying, when will you stop talking marketplace? Business unusual. We won't. That is our jurisdiction. That's where our authority functions.
And that is why, going back now, when we started 2020, the series of God is giving us power to create wealth, that wealth is now what you're being told. Listen, how do you create the wealth? Get your market space. What is the wealth for? You will always notice we'll go around that sending where you say, listen, when you get power to create wealth, the wealth is for this. There's a target, there is objective. You can't just say I'm random. By the way, when you get power, it's for me to do what God tells you. Even when I send you and tell you this is the kind of power I'm giving you, and when you create wealth, you will always find there's jurisdiction, and we operate in that jurisdiction.
And we see jurisdiction in the New Testament. They all began with him. Let's take actual people. Let's take Peter and let's take Paul. Two people will give you a nice picture. They both come from Christ. Peter walks with Christ. Paul meets Christ on the road to Damascus. Who sends both of them? Christ. But Peter is primarily sent to the Jews. In fact, if you check in Galatians 2, you'll see it, where Paul says, I was sent to the uncircumcised, and Peter was sent to the circumcised, to each of us to practice our apostleship, our sentship. Now, when Peter was among Gentiles, he was very incompetent. We see a scenario where Paul had to rebuke him. Yet, in terms of seniority of those who walked with Christ, Peter should be senior, but among the Gentiles he's incompetent. The story is told about when he was okay with sitting with the Gentiles until other Jews showed up from Antioch. When they showed up, Peter began to ignore, and Paul called him out for hypocrisy. The same Paul, every time he interacted with Jews, they got into trouble. They got him stoned, they got him chased, they got him wherever. But the minute he focused on the Gentiles, he was functional. In fact, I always love the last two verses of the book of Acts. It says, and after it's finished speaking with the Jews, that's the first time it says, and the Jews left. They left and went arguing among themselves. And Paul stayed, this is in Rome. That's why they couldn't bother him in Rome. He stayed in his own hired house. Everybody coming to see him for 2 years, no one troubling him at all. Jurisdiction. And that's why he would say, I, Paul, an apostle to the Gentiles. He was clear.
So when you talk about jurisdiction here,
Yes.
we are saying that the Bible says that he who breaks the hedge
A serpent will bite.
outside of your jurisdiction.
Yes.
And sometimes for a minister, for
Yes.
a worker, remember we are still in the harvest,
Yes.
where the Lord is sending his workers.
Yeah.
A worker who is outside of his jurisdiction
Yes.
will always find it hard to operate because this is not where you are sent.
Yep.
The power you have is not for this place. And of
No, it's
course,
not.
we'll be looking at the sent ones
Yes.
and how they operate.
Yes.
But right now we're talking about the word sending.
Being sent.
Okay.
Sending cancels personal preference. Guys, there are many topics popular today. I can't touch them. Because it's not personal preference.
Yes.
We are confined to the mandate allocated by the Lord. What he has allocated to us is where we stay. Listen, everybody who is called by Christ, who walked with him, knows many things and many topics. But we are not sent to all those topics.
So there are things we talk in the house. For example, you can be talking, or you're with other ministers.
We can discuss.
And you're discussing, and it's so powerful.
Yes.
And you know that particular place, when Jesus says, when two come together in my
Yes.
name, we know the Lord
Powerful
is there.
concepts.
But you know what? They are not for this channel. They are not for this
Exactly.
conversation. So sometimes somebody will be coming here,
Yes.
and we sit and talk. But
Yes.
whatever we are talking, we'll never bring it to
I'll
this
never
channel.
preach it.
Why? Because in this place, there's jurisdiction.
Yes.
And outside of that, actually, when you say outside of that, and you know that there's no sad statement,
Yes.
like when Jesus says, I never knew you.
Exactly.
So what are you preaching? Imagine
Yes.
us sitting here for 45 minutes,
Yes.
one whole conversation, and you finish and Jesus says, I never knew you. I don't know what you're talking
That's
about
the
because
truth.
that's not what I sent you to do.
Yes.
But what you said was powerful.
Exactly.
But powerful enough
Yes.
to just say powerful.
It
not
won't
to
change
anybody.
anything.
Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes those conversations
Yes.
are of people who are sent to us. So we can hear them,
Yes.
but we cannot share what they say to us because it is to us.
Yes.
We are sent in a different context. So we must stay within jurisdiction.
That's powerful.
When you stay within jurisdiction, power functions. Sending empowers you to live in the authority which you've been sent.
So, before we go on, let's go back to that. I think it just hit me here.
Yes.
When you talk about Facebook, if I go to Facebook and I throw out a statement,
Yes.
as though there are statements of encouragement, inspiration,
Yes.
which we can all share.
That's okay.
But when I go and start teaching, who are you sent to?
There's no sent to the air.
You can inspire people,
Let me say,
encourage people.
There's only one prince of the power of the air.
Okay?
And we all know who he is.
Yes.
We are not sent to the air. You cannot go and throw out statements for the sake because you had a good statement somewhere or because you got inspired or encouraged or you want to comment. The query will be very simple. Are you sent? Because let me say this. If you keep confronting a space you're not called to, you will draw response from demons you're not equipped for.
Oh, please say that again.
Yeah. Sons of Sceva,
Yeah.
that's a principle. They went to decree in a space they're not called to, and they got the repercussions of demons they were not equipped for.
So there's somebody who could be sitting now and
Yes.
wondering why their life is not working.
Yes.
Because you are attracting spirits
Yes.
that you're not equipped to fight.
Simple.
And you're wondering, why is my life not moving?
Simple.
But if you find where you've been called,
Yes.
and you say, listen, this is now me speaking on Facebook, and I'm sending this as an inspiration to somebody,
Yes.
but in my area of calling, not
Power
just
be
sitting and
released.
saying, listen, today I'm talking about healing, and then tomorrow I'll talk about prophetic. Then I've just discovered there's an apostolic season. Then again, you're going to the heavenlies, and you're like, listen,
Yeah.
get your space, get to know your jurisdiction.
Yes.
Even your inspiring quotes
Yes.
will just make somebody thrive.
change
I mean,
our life.
they can
Yes.
even thrust someone from where they are to where
they
they're
need to be.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
Why? Because you are talking from where you have
Yes.
power.
Yes.
Sending.
Yeah,
We're still
because
talking about
because yeah,
sending.
because we are accountable to Him who sent us.
Okay.
Some people think accountability is to each other. No, I'm not accountable to my brothers. I'm accountable to my Lord.
Say again.
Now, that
So
is-
we're still talking about sending.
Yeah,
here.
that is more serious than being accountable to your brothers.
Okay.
Because being accountable to my brothers may be democracy. We may be agreeing with what we think is right and we could all be wrong. But I am accountable to the one who sent me, and there is no way being accountable to the one who sent me can harm anyone.
Wow. So you are accountable and
Yes,
answerable.
answerable.
To He who sent
Yes,
you.
for the
Remember, we are
souls.
going back
Yes.
to Jesus called them to Himself.
Yes.
And then He commanded them.
Yes.
When He sends them, that sending, be accountable and answerable to Him.
To Him.
That doesn't mean you don't have relationships.
Yes, let me explain that. When you're accountable to Him,
Okay.
you live by such a high standard, you cannot offend anyone.
Powerful.
You cannot hurt anyone.
Powerful.
But this is not saying, I don't care what people say, I have been sent and I'm not answerable to anyone. No.
Okay.
When you are accountable to Him who sent you, that statement can't come from your mouth.
When you say that you're accountable to Him,
Yes.
it is seen
Yes.
in how you relate with
With everybody
people,
else.
and you can't just throw away everyone and say, me, I'm
Yeah.
accountable to God.
No.
The same way we say
Yeah.
that I love God with all my heart. It
Exactly.
can only be seen on how you
Yes.
love men
Yes.
and women
Absolutely.
in the earth. So you can't come and say, you know what, I desire God, I desire to know His word. That desire will be seen in how you desire for others to live in the word that God has released.
That's it.
So whatever we say we desire of Him, accountable to Him, answerable to Him, shall be seen on our relationship
Exactly.
with men. It cannot be divorced.
Yes.
And that's why when Jesus says, love God and love men,
Exactly.
your love of God can only be seen in your love
Yes.
of men.
It cannot harm anyone.
Yes.
And this sending also empowers you to live in the authority with which you're sent. In other words, that power becomes manifest. It
Guys?
actually is seen in the lives of people because it is from the one who sent you.
Okay,
And that's what it actually means to be prophetically aligned.
please explain. Let's finish with
Yes,
that.
it means if I am aligned prophetically,
Prophetically, yes.
then the sent one who sent me, and I am also totally convinced of how I have been sent, causes the authority with which I am sent to manifest. And it is seen in the outcome. Listen, it is good to say when the disciples said that the demons were subject to us in your name.
Yes.
Did you notice what the mandate was about? Go and drive out demons. From who? From people. Go and heal. Who? People.
So we have to come to this place
Oh,
where we
yeah.
are totally convinced
Yes.
of He who sent us,
Yes.
have our confidence in Him,
Yes.
therefore in our sending,
Yes.
we have confidence,
Yes.
and we're not pulled, and we're not random, we're not pulled by whatever is happening around
And
us.
what is the outcome?
Yes.
The lives of the people. The only thing that proved they were sent by Him was the outcome. Because when we like quoting that as if the demons were in the air. They were not in the
Okay,
lives
wait.
of people.
Say that again. That yes, I'm sent,
Yes.
but the only proof.
The only proof that I am sent is the transformation in the lives of those.
Thank you for joining us on Business Unusual with the Cyrus Community. We hope you've gained insights into prophetic alignment, overcoming the spirit of Mammon, and understanding your spiritual jurisdiction. Remember, align with God's purpose. Push back against the spirit of Mammon. Draw grace from aligned intentions. Stay within your spiritual authority. Celebrate progress over perfection. Find clarity in your relationships and calling. If this message resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe for more empowering conversations. Stay aligned, stay intentional, and fulfill your divine mission.